the gap, standing for Jesus, standing in the gap for family and friends, standing in the gap, one love for all, so we all can make it in.
And Micah 6:8, keep that in mind. All right. Now, as we progress, we've dedicated a certain portion of our ministry to keeping you up on current events. We call it Gap News. And in today's world, there's a lot of things going on because God put us in this world to be a part of this world, to spread the gospel to every corner of this world. And we're not going to know how to do that and all that unless we know what's going on in the world. And so that's why we do Gap News. Marble is in charge of that, and she has got a whole lot of things that she can draw from, and I just turn this over to her.
Well, we got a good one today. One of our friends told Art, everything going on this week, we know we're going to get a good Gap News this weekend. And we have a good one. Everybody knows the big presidential debate between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump took place this week. And here are the highlights and some of the responses. Go Kamala.
Kamala Harris. Let's have a good debate.
Have fun.
Thank you.
Welcome to you both. It's wonderful to have you. It's an honor to have you both here tonight.
I imagine and have actually a plan to build what I call an opportunity economy. Because here's the thing. We know that we have a shortage of homes and housing. And the cost of housing is too expensive for far too many people.
I had no inflation, virtually no inflation. They had the highest inflation perhaps in the history of our country because I've never seen a worse period of time. People can't go out and buy cereal or bacon or eggs or anything else. The people of our country are absolutely dying with what they've done.
And I'm going to actually do something really unusual, and I'm going to invite you to attend one of Donald Trump's rallies because it's a really interesting thing to watch. You will see during the course of his rallies, he talks about fictional characters like Hannibal Lecter. He will talk about windmills cause cancer. And what you will also notice is that people start leaving his rallies early out of exhaustion and boredom.
So she can't talk about that. People don't leave my rallies. We have the biggest rallies, the most incredible rallies in the history of politics. That's because people want to take their country back. In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there. And this is what's happening in our country, and it's a shame.
I just want to clarify here. You bring up Springfield, Ohio, and ABC News did reach out to the city manager there. He told us there have been no credible reports of specific claims of pets being harmed, injured, or abused by individuals within the immigrant community.
Well, I've seen people on television.
Let me just say here, this is
the people on television say my dog was taken and used for food. So maybe he said that, and maybe that's a good thing to say for a city manager.
I'm not taking this from
but
television.
But the people
I'm
on
taking
television
it from the city
saying
manager.
their dog was eaten by the people that went there.
Again, the Springfield city manager says there's no evidence of that.
That bill would have put more resources to allow us to prosecute transnational criminal organizations for trafficking in guns, drugs, and human beings. But you know what happened to that bill? Donald Trump got on the phone, called up some folks in Congress and said, kill the bill. And you know why? Because he'd prefer to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem.
They allowed terrorists. They allowed common street criminals. They allowed people to come in, drug dealers, to come into our country. And they're now in the United States and told by their countries like Venezuela, don't ever come back or we're going to kill you.
I think this is so rich coming from someone who has been prosecuted for national security crimes, economic crimes, election interference, has been found liable for sexual assault, and his next big court appearance is in November at his own criminal sentencing. What we know is that this war must end. It must end immediately, and the way it will end is we need a ceasefire deal and we need the hostages out. And so we will continue to work around the clock on that.
She hates Israel. She wouldn't even meet with Netanyahu when he went to Congress to make a very important speech. She refused to be there because she was at a sorority party of hers. She wanted to go to the sorority party.
Tim Walz and I are both gun owners. We're not taking anybody's guns away, so stop with the continuous lying about this stuff.
Are you now acknowledging that you lost in 2020?
No, I don't acknowledge that at all.
But
I
you
said
did
that
say
sarcastically.
But
You know
those-
that. It was said, oh, we lost by a whisker. That was said sarcastically.
Donald Trump was fired by 81 million people. So let's be clear about that. And clearly he is having a very difficult time processing.
I want to get the war settled. I know Zelensky very well, and I know Putin very well. I have a good relationship, and they respect your president, okay? They respect me. They don't respect Biden. How would you respect him? Why? For what reason? He hasn't even made a phone call in 2 years to Putin, hasn't spoken to anybody. They don't even try and get it. That is a war that's dying to be settled. I will get it settled before I even become president. If I win, when I'm president-elect, and what I'll do is I'll speak to one, I'll speak to the other, I'll get them together. That war would have never happened. And in fact, when I saw Putin after I left, unfortunately left because our country has gone to hell. But after I left, when I saw him building up soldiers, he did it after I left, I said, oh, he must be negotiating. It must be a good, strong point of negotiation. Well, it wasn't, because Biden had no idea how to talk to him. He had no idea how to stop it. And now you have millions of people dead, and it's only getting worse, and it could lead to World War III.
Ukraine stands as an independent and free country. If Donald Trump were president, Putin would be sitting in Kyiv right now. And understand what that would mean, because Putin's agenda is not just about Ukraine. Understand why the European allies and our NATO allies are so thankful that you are no longer president, and that we understand the importance of the greatest military alliance the world has ever known, which is NATO, and what we have done to preserve the ability of Zelensky and the Ukrainians to fight for their independence. Otherwise, Putin would be sitting in Kyiv with his eyes on the rest of Europe, starting with Poland. And why don't you tell the 800,000 Polish Americans right here in Pennsylvania how quickly you would give up for the sake of favor and what you think is a friendship with what is known to be a dictator who would eat you for lunch.
If it's appropriate to weigh in on the racial identity of your opponent.
I don't, and I don't care. I don't care what she is. I don't care. You make a big deal out of something, I couldn't care less. Whatever she wants to be is okay with me.
But those were your words, so I'm
I
asking.
don't know. I mean, all I can say is I read where she was not black, that she put out, and I'll say that. And then I read that she was black, and that's okay. Either one was okay with me. That's up to her. That's up to her.
I mean, honestly, I think it's a tragedy that we have someone who wants to be president who has consistently, over the course of his career, attempted to use race to divide the American people. You know, I do believe that the vast majority of us know that we have so much more in common than what separates us, and we don't want this kind of approach that is just constantly trying to divide us, and especially by race.
They have to hate our country.
President Trump, thank you. Lindsay?
I want to turn to the issue of abortion. President Trump, you've often touted that you were able to kill Roe v. Wade. Last year, you said that you were proud to be the most pro-life president in American history. Then last month, you said that your administration would be great for women and their reproductive rights. In your home state of Florida, you surprised many with regard to your 6-week abortion ban, because you initially had said that it was too short. And you said, quote, I'm going to be voting that we need more than 6 weeks. But then the very next day, you reversed course and said you would vote to support the 6-week ban. Vice President Harris says that women shouldn't trust you on the issue of abortion because you've changed your position so many times. Therefore, why should they trust you?
Well, the reason I'm doing that vote is because the plan is, as you know, the vote is, they have abortion in the 9th month. They even have, and you can look at the governor of West Virginia, the previous governor of West Virginia, not the current governor, who's doing an excellent job, but the governor before, he said the baby will be born and we will decide what to do with the baby. In other words, we'll execute the baby. And that's why I did that, because that predominates, because they're radical. The Democrats are radical in that. And her vice presidential pick, which I think was a horrible pick, by the way, for our country, because he is really out of it. But her vice presidential pick says abortion in the 9th month is absolutely fine. He also says execution after birth. It's execution, no longer abortion, because the baby is born, is okay. And that's not okay with me, hence the vote. But what I did is something for 52 years. They've been trying to get Roe v. Wade into the states. And through the genius and heart and strength of 6 Supreme Court justices, we were able to do that. Now, I believe in the exceptions for rape, incest, and life of the mother. I believe strongly in it. Ronald Reagan did also. 85% of Republicans do. Exceptions. Very important. But we were able to get it, and now states are voting on it. And for the first time, you're going to see, look, this is an issue that's torn our country apart for 52 years. Every legal scholar, every Democrat, every Republican, liberal, conservative, they all wanted this issue to be brought back to the states where the people could vote. And that's what happened. Now, Ohio, the vote was somewhat liberal. Kansas, the vote was somewhat liberal, much more liberal than people would have thought. But each individual state is voting. It's the vote of the people now. It's not tied up in the federal government. I did a great service in doing it. It took courage to do it. And the Supreme Court had great courage in doing it. And I give tremendous credit to those 6 justices.
There is no state in this country where it is legal to kill a baby after it's born. Madam Vice President, I want to get your response to President Trump.
Well, as I said, you're going to hear a bunch of lies, and that's not actually a surprising fact. Let's understand how we got here. Donald Trump hand-selected 3 members of the United States Supreme Court with the intention that they would undo the protections of Roe v. Wade. And they did exactly as he intended. And now in over 20 states, there are Trump abortion bans, which make it criminal for a doctor or nurse to provide health care. In one state, it provides prison for life. Trump abortion bans that make no exception even for rape and incest, which understand what that means. A survivor of a crime of violation to their body does not have the right to make a decision about what happens to their body next. That is immoral. And one does not have to abandon their faith or deeply held beliefs to agree. The government, and Donald Trump certainly, should not be telling a woman what to do with her body. I have talked with women around our country. You want to talk about this is what people wanted? Pregnant women who want to carry a pregnancy to term, suffering from a miscarriage, being denied care in an emergency room because the healthcare providers are afraid they might go to jail, and she's bleeding out in a car in the parking lot. She didn't want that. Her husband didn't want that. A 12 or 13-year-old survivor of incest being forced to carry a pregnancy to term. They don't want that. And I pledge to you, when Congress passes a bill to put back in place the protections of Roe v. Wade, as President of the United States, I will proudly sign it into law. But understand, if Donald Trump were to be reelected, he will sign a national abortion ban. Understand, in his Project 2025, there would be a national abortion, a monitor that would be monitoring your pregnancies, your miscarriages. I think the American people believe that certain freedoms, in particular the freedom to make decisions about one's own body, should not be made by the government.
Thank you, Vice President.
Absolutely support reinstating the protections of Roe v. Wade. And as you rightly mentioned, nowhere in America is a woman carrying a pregnancy to term and asking for an abortion. That is not happening. It's insulting to the women of America. And understand what has been happening under Donald Trump's abortion bans. Couples who pray and dream of having a family are being denied IVF treatments. What is happening in our country? Working people, working women who are working 1 or 2 jobs, who can barely afford childcare as it is, have to travel to another state to get on a plane sitting next to strangers to go and get the health care she needs. Barely can afford to do it, and what you are putting her through is unconscionable. And the people of America have not, the majority of Americans believe in a woman's right to make decisions about her own body. And that is why, in every state where this issue has been on the ballot, in red and blue states both, the people of America have voted for freedom.
What we will do is we're looking at different plans. If we can come up with a plan that's going to cost our people, our population, less money and be better health care than Obamacare, then I would absolutely do it. But until then, I'd run it as good as it can be run.
So just a yes or no, you still do not have a plan?
I have concepts of a plan. I'm not president right now.
Tonight, you're going to hear from the same old tired playbook, a bunch of lies, grievances, and name-calling.
Trump punching back.
She's a Marxist. Everybody knows she's a Marxist. Her father's a Marxist professor in economics, and he taught her well.
Donald Trump and I had our debate. You watched it? Did you watch it?
Stumbled and did not appear sharp. You can see, look at the gap between the 52% that say he stumbled and only about 1 out of 5 total voters who said they watched or were familiar with the debate said that about Harris. Americans also weighing in on the winner, a whopping 53% say Harris won. Only 24% could muster that view for Trump. And in fairness to Donald Trump, I mentioned this earlier this week, I will say it again now. So like a candidate, sometimes we repeat things. 24% of people familiar with the debate saying Trump won means a heck of a lot of people who have voted for Trump in the past or are Republicans don't think he won.
Indicating that we got 90%, 60%, 72%, 71%, and 89%. So the polls are very good.
Just some final thoughts. We got a couple minutes, Maudlin.
I think that this debate went exactly the way that Vice President Kamala Harris and the Democratic Party had hoped it would go. I think that Kamala Harris was clearly the winner of this debate, just as clear as we all left the first debate knowing that Biden had lost the debate. We are leaving this debate knowing that Trump has lost this debate.
Rick Pearson?
I know foreign policy isn't normally like a big issue of concern to voters, but it should be in this world that we live in. And I just found it interesting when Trump was defending how he is viewed on the international stage, that the only world leader that he could cite was Hungarian strongman Viktor Orban. I mean, nobody from NATO, none of our allied countries, he had to pick basically an authoritarian leadership.
Jim Durkin?
You know, I started off by looking at the body language of both candidates, and particularly with Donald Trump. It was a scowl. He looked angry the whole time. Harris had was strong, positive, and as I said earlier, showed some optimism. Tonight, if the independents and the swing voters are waiting to see how this turned out, she wins.
Jim Durkin, you said you're not voting for Trump, but are you thinking about voting for Harris, or you haven't made up your mind yet?
I'm a John McCain Republican, but the fact is I'm still a Republican. And I left the service as House Republican leader a year and a half ago. I believe in the Republican Party. I don't believe in Donald Trump.
Well, who do you think won?
Well, I'm pretty clear that Kamala won the debate. Donald Trump, I mean, I just can't get over all the lies and the outrageous lies that he talks about, the executing babies after they're born, or terminating the pregnancy in the 9th month, and all that kind of thing. And the one thing that didn't come up there was the deal about the immigrants and the Haitians up in Springfield.
Oh, he said that they're eating the dogs, and he said that they're eating the dogs, and when the
he said it, but I didn't see it on there.
no, it was in the
Okay.
it was in there because I had to go and find that one because I wanted to make sure that was in there. And then when the moderator said, no, we checked, and then Trump said, I saw it on TV.
Oh yeah, that's right. I mean, it's just crazy, and I mean, there's no way he should ever be elected president or even invited into the White House afterwards. There's no way, no way. Like we always say, vote for who you want to vote for, but we're trying to give you the information that you need in order to make a well-informed decision. Well-informed decision.
Well, and so there were a couple of really good highlights, I thought. One of them was around healthcare, the Affordable Health Care Act, and Trump, after I think it's 30 or 60 times he tried to get rid of it when he was the president, and he's been sitting around for almost 4 years thinking about it, stewing about it, obviously, and he's got concepts. He's got concepts. That one was a real hilarious one to me. And then he comes out in the spin room and says, 70% say I won, 89% say I won. But just
lying.
lying,
Just making up stuff.
lying.
Making
See
up
what
stuff.
Sister Michelle said. Everybody knows. Everybody knows. And she said she's gonna stay prayed up.
You know, the one of the most emphatic things that I remember her saying was when she said that the generals and all that think of him as a disgrace, and the leaders around the world are laughing at him.
Yeah, I didn't get that one.
Yeah, I know, but that's,
Yeah, but that and oh man, you should have seen the grimace. At any rate, they had the presidential debate. They were scheduled for another debate, but Trump has said now no more debates for him. And I can't think of any reason except to just show how terrible he is. So I'm sure that's why he doesn't want another one. But yeah, I think that just gives you a good idea of what's going on. And thank you, Sister Michelle.
all righty. Gap News.
Gap News.
There seems to be an unending reservoir of things you can pluck out of the news for Gap News. And always keep in mind that it's because of spiritual warfare that all these things are
All
going
of this
on.
stuff is going on. Just
And so,
evil, evil, evil.
Right. Evil.
Yeah.
And one of the things that came up in this political atmosphere that we just talked about was the immigration issue and the how we're treating foreigners.
And so we're wrapping up the Gap News.
Yes.